Years ago, I was told I may never be able to have sex again. Lying on my back with my legs in the stirrups, I could feel my body start to shake. The doctor wheeled over to me and told me that she was going to poke me with a Q-tip. And the next thing I knew, my whole body felt like it was in flames. And it felt like someone had stabbed me with a steel rod. "What are you doing?" I asked her. She said, "All I did was touch you with this Q-tip." She took her hand away from my vagina, took her gloves off, and looked at me. "It looks like you have vaginismus and definitely some vulvodynia." I had no idea what she was talking about. "You have a condition that causes chronic pain in your vagina, and during insertion, you have another condition that causes pain with that. There is currently no cure for the condition." What am I supposed to do then? Give me a pill, give me something that I can do. She didn't give me a solution. I first discovered my vagina problems when I was just a young girl going to the gynecologist. I thought the pain that I was feeling during the annual exam was totally normal and that everyone felt that type of pain when their vagina was being touched. A few years later, when I started using tampons and couldn't and felt an immeasurable amount of pain, I thought that was normal too. Despite the pain that I was experiencing, I never once thought to ask my friends, "Hey, when you go to the gynecologist, does it feel like you're being ripped open from the inside out?" I kind of just ignored it and went about my life and didn't think much about my vagina until a few years later when I started to be really interested in boys. Your first time having sex is pretty much supposed to hurt. That's what everyone tells you. It's what I've heard since I was like 13 years old. It hurts like hell. But when I tried and it hurt so badly that I was screaming out in pain, I thought, is this really what it's supposed to be like? As I got older and I tried to experiment more and more, the same thing kept happening. Eventually, the pain was so bad and embarrassing that I just shied away from pretty much any sort of physical interaction with boys at all. After being in a situation where I had to cry out in pain and leave awkwardly from a room with someone who had no idea what was going on, I didn't want to be in that situation. Eventually, after shying away from guys so often, I met someone that I did care about a lot, and I wanted to try again, because when you really like someone, you want to be intimate with them. I thought maybe it was just the first couple of guys, maybe it was just a fluke, maybe my vagina was better now, but it wasn't. And after another embarrassing and super painful experience where he asked what the hell was wrong with me, I finally realized maybe I needed to figure it out. I made an appointment with a gynecologist that week. I went in knowing that something was wrong. I left hearing the word endometriosis. Endometriosis was something I had never heard of, but it was apparently likely that I had it. While doing the surgery, it was confirmed that I did in fact have endometriosis, lesions all over my ovaries and uterus, and that I should be better now. I went through the surgery, I wasn't supposed to have pain anymore. As the weeks went by post-surgery, the pain only got worse. At the time, I was still with the guy that I had really cared about and kept trying, which was why I kind of thought to go through with the surgery. But due to the lack of intimacy and the fact that I had no idea what the hell was wrong with my vagina, the relationship was disintegrating before my eyes. I felt like I had nothing to offer him physically, and I couldn't understand why he would still want to be with me. I felt guilty, like I was doing something wrong. He didn't understand why I was shying away from every single touch or refusing to be intimate at all. And I didn't have an explanation for him. I had gone for the surgery. I thought I knew what was wrong with me, so what the hell was going on? Was it all mental? Physical pain often brings its best friend, emotional pain. And obviously when someone is in that amount of pain day after day, depression kind of creeps its way in and takes over your life. At the time of this all happening, I was 21 years old. I was a senior in college. I was supposed to be having the time of my life, going out all the time, meeting cute boys, getting cool internships, and like living it up for the last semester of college. Instead, I spent almost every day in bed in pain, wondering what the hell was wrong with me, and pleading with a higher power to give me an answer. I lost my appreciation for life. Simple things became too much. I didn't get out of bed to go to the dining hall to eat dinner. I barely hung out with my friends. I basically closed myself off from everyone in my life. I wanted to think about my future. I wanted to have a good time, but instead all I could think about was the pain that was stemming from my vagina and now taking over my entire body. So while my friends took the party bus downtown to go to the bars on a Thursday night, I tried to distract myself as much as I could. Most of the time I would watch TV, but it seemed like every scene on TV reminded me some way of my pain. My friends eventually stopped asking me to hang out, not that I blamed them, and I stopped pretending to be okay altogether. A couple of months went by and suddenly it was May and I was supposed to be graduating soon. I could not think about the rest of my life or even the next week without thinking, what the hell am I gonna do about this pain? So I decided to pull out the big guns and go to Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota. Mayo Clinic is supposed to be the best of the best, and I felt like I didn't have any other choice. And I don't think I've ever felt so desperate in my life. I was begging them, please, please, can you help me? The doctor wheeled her chair around again and turned to face me. At this point, I was practically hyperventilating. I was crying so hard. She had told me something that was wrong with me, but it was just a bunch of jumbled of words that meant nothing to me. And when she said there's no definitive cure, I felt my heart drop out of my body. I can't tell you that you will ever be free of this, she said, but there are things that you can do. Unfortunately, I had stopped listening once she said she wasn't sure I would be free of this. All I could think about was my exes and all the ways that they had looked at me when I had disappointed them over and over again. Is this what I'm gonna have to go through the rest of my life? I didn't want to schedule more appointments. I didn't want to be at this place anymore. I just wanted to go home and forget that this had ever happened. I honestly hoped that it was a nightmare, but when I woke up the next morning, still in Rochester, Minnesota, and remembered everything she had said to me, I knew it wasn't a nightmare. The terms vulvodynia, vaginismus, pelvic floor dysfunction had all been thrown at me, and I had no fucking idea what it meant. Was I supposed to be okay with the fact that I couldn't have sex? Was I supposed to be okay with the fact that wearing tampons hurt just as bad as shoving a metal rod in flames up my vagina? It's been almost 6 years since I went to Mayo Clinic and got that diagnosis. It did actually change my life. I slept with ice on my vagina. I only wore cotton underwear. I would go to physical therapy for my vagina. It's really hard when you have some sort of pain day after day to think of anything but that pain. Watching sex scenes on TV or hearing about sex kind of makes me feel like I want to throw up. And it's not because it's like, ooh, sex is gross. It's because I feel broken and I feel like a part of me is missing, a part of me that I never once got to experience. Truth be told, to this day, it's still incredibly difficult to witness conversations about sex or talk about it at all. I've made a lot of progress, but I'm still not having penetration. The more I open up about these conditions, though, the more I realize that I'm definitely not alone, and they're actually pretty common. A lot of people aren't having sex the way that we think that they're having sex. In fact, I'd say that most people aren't. I will always continue to believe that there is much more to life than the ability to have sex. And I will continue to try to convince any person, despite sex, despite abilities, that you are still worth loving, no matter what. It definitely doesn't mean that you're broken. When I look in the mirror, I know that I am lovable, despite not being able to have sex. And I know someday I'll be able to forgive my body for letting me down. I'm not quite there yet. Some days are better than others, but I know I'll get there someday. That's like basically how it ends.
Hey, Unsolved is on a new channel, and now your part.
Subscribe here. That was my part.